If you want to witness, like, a logistical operation that rivals a military deployment or, I don't know, a commercial supply chain,
Oh, yeah.
you actually shouldn't look at the Pentagon. You should look at the loading dock of a luxury downtown hotel at, like, 6 in the morning on a Saturday.
Truly a war zone.
Right. Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're taking you behind the curtain to look at the brutal, high-stakes choreography that goes into managing large-scale events.
It is intense.
It really is.
Mhm.
We are working from this ultimate guide from Weddizer, and it's titled Handling Vendor Arrival Times and Load-In Schedules.
Mhm.
And just, reading through these source materials, it immediately becomes clear that the illusion of effortless magic you experience as a guest,
Right.
it's actually the byproduct of an intense, highly engineered system of spatial management.
What's fascinating here is that the conventional idea of event scheduling, like, just putting times on a clock and telling people when to show up,
Yeah.
that is entirely obsolete at this level. The guide treats vendor scheduling as a complete logistics management system. We aren't talking about time management anymore. We are talking about controlling the flow of mass, heavy equipment, highly sensitive materials, all through these tiny physical bottlenecks.
It's structural control.
Exactly. It's structural control designed to prevent venue congestion and just eliminate those compounding variables that lead to, well, total operational failure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to build that kind of structural control, you have to start at the absolute bottom of the pyramid.
You really do.
The guide is adamant that you cannot schedule a single vendor until you have mapped the physical limitations of the venue.
Right. The physical space dictates everything.
Yeah, and this goes way beyond just knowing, like, what time the front doors unlock.
Yeah.
You are looking at constraints that completely dictate your reality.
Venue rules are basically the unyielding physics of your event space.
Wow. Yeah.
Before a timeline even begins to form, a professional is out there auditing the building's infrastructure.
Right.
The source list checking venue access hours, sure, but more critically, auditing elevator restrictions.
That's
Securing loading dock access, calculating parking availability for, massive commercial box trucks, and identifying local noise limitations.
the service elevator aspect really stood out to me. Because
Yeah.
if you were in a historic building or a high-rise venue, that single elevator is your entire supply chain artery.
Oh, absolutely. It's the only way up.
Right. So if you have a florist who needs, I don't know, 15 trips to bring up these massive structural arches,
Mm-hmm.
and then an AV team that needs 5 trips with those heavy road cases, and they both hit that elevator bank at the exact same time, you don't just have an annoyance.
No, you have a disaster.
You have a hard mathematical bottleneck. You lose 2 hours of setup time instantly just waiting for a metal box to go up and down.
That is the exact scenario that forces planners into defensive scheduling.
Defensive scheduling, I like that.
Yeah, and you also have to factor in the invisible constraints like municipal noise ordinances.
Oh, right.
Some cities have these really strict decibel limits that lift at specific morning hours or clamp down hard at night.
So you can't just test the sound system whenever you want.
Exactly. That means your AV team might only have a narrow, 20-minute window at 3:45 p.m. to legally push the sound system to maximum volume for a check.
Wow.
And if your florist is running power tools nearby to assemble a centerpiece during that same 20 minutes,
Your sound check completely fails.
yep, mapping those constraints is the only way to build a schedule that actually survives contact with reality.
It makes me think of just-in-time manufacturing in major supply chains.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Like in a factory, holding excess inventory on the floor, it costs money and creates hazards.
Right.
In an event space, having vendors lingering in a loading dock or just tripping over each other in a ballroom creates the exact same massive liability. It's like playing a giant game of Tetris.
It really is.
You only want the specific components you need arriving at the exact second you need them, which leads to the guide's core strategy, which is staggered load-ins.
Yes.
You structure arrivals in ways based on setup complexity.
And that hierarchy of complexity is arguably, I'd say, the most vital concept in the text. The foundational layers just have to be built first.
Makes sense.
The guide identifies rental companies as the absolute priority.
So tents, tables.
Exactly. The teams bringing in the physical infrastructure, the staging, the dance floors, they command the most square footage and they dictate the geography of the room.
Right.
Until they secure their footprint, literally nobody else can operate.
But wait, I do want to push back on this staggering strategy for a second.
Okay, sure.
Because on paper, sequencing vendors based on operational complexity sounds incredibly logical. But wouldn't it just be easier to have every vendor arrive at the exact same time in the morning to get it all over with?
Oh, man, no.
I mean, we were talking about operating in major
Yeah.
cities, right?
Yeah.
Or remote destination venues where traffic, delayed shipments, blown tires, those are real things.
Very real.
So if you stagger everything so rigidly, say, giving the rental company the 8:20 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. slot, and then the florist gets 9:30 a.m. to 11:00 a.m., what happens when the rental truck gets stuck in gridlock?
Yeah.
Doesn't a rigid staggered hierarchy just guarantee that one delay derails the entire subsequent chain of vendors?
Well, that is the paradox of logistics. The rigidity is actually what creates the capacity for flexibility.
Wait, how does that work?
By staggering the arrivals, you isolate the problem.
Ah, okay.
Think about it. If everyone was scheduled at 8:20 a.m. and the rental truck was late, you'd have 20 different vendors sitting in a parking lot, bleeding hourly wages, totally unable to work.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a nightmare.
Right. But by staggering, if the rental team is delayed, you only have to manage the florist's delay. The event manager can dynamically reroute the timeline.
So they pivot.
Exactly. They might divert the AV team to start building their control booth in a different room while they wait. You are essentially limiting the blast radius of a delay.
Limiting the blast radius. I love that. And so, okay, after the rental teams, the next wave includes the decor and floral teams, alongside the lighting and AV technicians, right?
Yes, the complex installations.
And reading the breakdown of their specific needs, it is an intense spatial negotiation. Like the floral teams often require hours of uninterrupted space to build massive, fragile installations. But at the same time, your AV techs need to run hundreds of feet of cabling across the room before those floral installations block their access paths.
But balancing those two teams requires just forensic attention to detail. You are managing the airspace and the floor space simultaneously.
Unbelievable.
And once those massive builds are locked in, the guide transitions to the later arrival.
The finishing touches.
Right. These are vendors whose work is highly dependent on timing closer to the guest arrival.
So makeup artists, photographers.
Yes, and the catering teams who need to protect food temperatures.
Right. Nobody wants a warm salad.
Exactly. The cake delivery, which involves placing a highly fragile item into a finalized room, and the entertainment teams arriving for their scheduled sound checks.
And for anyone listening to this, I think it's important to ask, why should you care about this specific order?
Right.
Because whether you are planning a luxury destination wedding, an intimate ceremony, or even just organizing a complex project at work, identifying your foundational infrastructure and prioritizing tasks by operational setup complexity is how you prevent total system gridlock.
It really is a masterclass in sequencing.
Yeah.
But moving from that theoretical sequencing into actual execution that requires a meticulous blueprint.
It's timeline.
Exactly. The Weddizer guide lays out the anatomy of an effective timeline, and it functions way more like a military operations order than just a standard calendar.
No, show up around 10 here.
Oh, definitely not. A professional schedule includes exacting load-in windows for specific zones. So not just morning, but loading dock B, 10:15 to 10:45 a.m.
It also requires specific vendor contact details, which makes sense. And the text is very clear that you need the name and direct cell phone number of the team leader actually driving the truck.
Right, not the corporate office.
Exactly, alongside an emergency backup contact. You cannot rely on a 1-800 number when you are dealing with a live logistical crisis at 6:18 a.m.
You also have to provide parking instructions, complete with satellite maps, clearly marked unloading zones, and the precise venue access doors they are allowed to use.
Which seems like a lot of work up front.
It is, but that level of granular detail prevents cognitive overload on the day of the event. Because if a vendor arrives and has to spend 20 minutes figuring out where to park a 26-foot box truck, that is 20 minutes subtracted from their setup time.
Yeah.
By handing every single team a personalized, hyper-detailed instruction manual, you eliminate the friction of decision-making. They arrive, they execute.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. You can build the most brilliant, color-coded logistical masterpiece in the world, but it is fundamentally useless if no one reads it.
Totally.
The guide establishes a really rigid communication strategy for distributing this blueprint. It says you must send the final schedule at least 1 week out, and you must execute a final direct confirmation 48 hours before load-in.
That 48-hour window is critical. It acts as the final firewall against misunderstandings.
Yeah.
It is the exact moment where vendors review the inventory one last time, confirm their crew sizes, and flag any last-minute supply chain issues.
I have to challenge that 28-hour rule a bit, though, based on how volatile some of these industries are.
Okay.
Take florists, for example.
Hmm.
They're dealing with global agricultural supply chains. A storm in South America can delay a shipment